Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2. Today I'm going to give you guys a detailed guide on how to unlock Mythic Uniques and try to grind for the specific one that you want. This season, Mythic Uniques are a little bit more difficult to get than they were previously, but there's also more ways of actually obtaining them, and a few little things that you can do here and there that is worth noting. If you don't know, Mythic Uniques are some of the most powerful items in the entire game, and as a result, they are particularly rare. Something cool about them is that they are always going to drop as ancestral, so they will always have at least one greater affix on them, which is pretty nice. Some of the uber uniques are extremely powerful, such as Tyrell's Might being an absolute defensive powerhouse. It is very, very good for Spiritborn, not only just defensively, but getting into the higher torments requires a ridiculous amount of resistances, and Tyrell's happens to have a crap load of all resist on it, which is super nice. There's also a ton of other mythic uniques that are very powerful as well. At the end of the video, I'll talk about which ones are the most powerful that you want to be looking out for and what their use cases are, and I'll also talk about which ones you can safely just dismantle and trash. This will be a pretty quick video, so let's just get into it. Firstly, Mythic Uniques simply just have a chance to drop from almost any activity that you do. Yesterday, I actually saw a clip of, I believe it was Condis, who just got a Mythic Unique just doing the Infernal Hordes. It's probably a higher chance to drop out of that chest than it is doing a lot of other content in the game, but based on the Torment tier that you're doing, you will have a higher Mythic Unique drop rate. What this drop rate is, we don't actually have numbers on this, but I would assume that being in Torment 4 is probably a pretty decently higher chance above fighting anything else in the lower tiers. Personally, I have not seen a Mythic Unique outside of killing tormented bosses, other than a Undercity thing, which I'll talk about in a second. So I'd say the number one best way to actually get Mythic Uniques is to kill tormented bosses and to try to kill them on either Torment 3 or Torment 4. Not only is the higher torment difficulty going to increase the drop rate of Mythic Uniques, but also per torment tier it's going to increase how many items actually drop. So on Torment 4, you'll get typically 5 to 6 items and then subtract 1 per torment tier. The drop rate on these from tormented bosses is significantly lower than it used to be. It used to be about 1 in 10. I'd say on average now it's maybe 1 in 20, 1 in 30. So you're not going to get them nearly as regularly as you used to, and finding the actual specific one that you want is going to be very challenging. So outside of tormented bosses, what are some things that you can do? Well, the first thing that you can do, and what most people are going to do, is going to try and craft them. So you need 2 Resplendent Sparks. You can go up to the jeweler here and you can look at the Uber Uniques, and then you can right click and see what it costs to craft them. Firstly, it's going to cost 2 Resplendent Sparks. You can get a Resplendent Spark by just dismantling any Mythic Unique, or you can get a Resplendent Spark by completing the entirety of the Seasonal Journey and then completing the entirety of the Zarbinzet Reputation here, all the way down here. I just had a brain aneurysm down here in Zarbinzet. There's a little reputation guy. Once you finish that, that will also give you a full Resplendent Spark. So that would give you 2 in order to craft. But now you need a crap load of these gems. And you'll see in chat all the time people are trying to buy Lith runes, because for that's pretty much not only one of the rarest runes, but also the one that is needed to craft Tyrell's Might. You need 6 Lith runes, 6 Fia runes, and 6 Tech runes. How you get runes, basically the best way is either by killing tormented bosses or running Undercity runs with Tribute of Harmony. And if you do this in a group and then everybody kind of consolidates the runes, it'll take a while, like it's pretty time consuming, but as you can see I have 24 of these. These drop pretty regularly. I'd say I've seen them drop the most from the pit. If you just run these, you will have a decent likelihood of getting a lot of these runes, but the legendary runes required per Uber Unique are typically the ones that are hardest to find, such as the Lith runes. These are the runes that I've accumulated after probably like 300 or 400 boss kills, and I personally have only looted 4 Lith runes. But you'll see, and this is where we'll get into trading. Trading is very important because you'll see in chat people trying to sell Lith runes or even trading some other runes so that they can craft them. So one thing that I would recommend personally is trying to go and do Duriel runs or Andariel, and trying to loot items such as Tibalt's Will, Bannerlord's Talisman, Rod of Capellice, and other items that are going to sell for particularly a lot on the market. Sell those. I sold 1 Rod of Capellice, just like this one, for 4.5 billion gold. I sold that, and then if I wanted to, I could have just bought all the Lith runes on the trade website. But also, if you want to craft like any other Uber Unique, a lot of these other ones you'll be able to just farm by killing the tormented bosses, like you'll just loot them incidentally anyways. But also a lot of the other ones aren't particularly as expensive. You might also get lucky by just typing in the trade chat down here. If I just do /3, I can just type in trade chat, and you'll see people do this all the time, willing to buy Lith rune, 100 million gold or whatever. And if it's only 100 million gold and you need 6 of them, the fact that I was able to sell a rod for 4.5 billion, like you could get it fairly quickly just by doing some bosses. Or with all the runes that you accumulated, you could try to sell them on the market similarly, because a lot of people are trying to buy some of the rarer runes, such as, I believe it is Zom that I have in my thing here, or Zol. Zol's pretty rare, so people are trying to buy those. And there's just a crap ton of stuff you could sell as well. Like, if I sold all this distilled fear, that's probably at least 100 or 200 million gold. But if you don't want to interact with trading at all, your best bet is just running the Tribute of Harmonies over and over and over again, trying to trade with random people in trade chat, maybe swapping, like, I'll give you these runes for a Lith rune or whatever. That is probably your best bet. Another thing that you can do, I would not really recommend this, but I've been doing this quite a lot because I've been getting quite a lot of Mythic Uniques, but you could gamble them with 2 Resplendent Sparks. So this just costs 2 Resplendent Sparks, and you just buy this from the blacksmith, costs 50 million gold, and you can just get a random Mythic Unique. I got my Harlequins right here, which, by the way, don't look at my character right now. I'm like trying out a speedrun setup of the build, but I got my Harlequins this way, and there's just been a ton of Mythic Uniques. What is this? Is this a furry on top of me? What? Huh? What's happening? What is going on? Okay. Anyways, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? Dismantle 2 Mythic Uniques, craft to try to RNG get a good one. I've been trying to get a better Tyraels for myself personally, and you might say better. That's probably impossible, but it's possible for it to roll 3 GA, right? So that could be pretty good, or 4 GA. The last thing that I don't think most people know about, and that I didn't even know about, is that you can get these Tributes of Harmony. They're not Tributes of Harmony, but you can get these tributes that give you Uber Uniques, and the drop rate on them is actually really good. So the drop rate on Mythic Uniques doing like any activity is extremely low. I personally haven't gotten any. I think one of my friends got one randomly when we were in a pit run, but it's very rare. But there are these tributes called the Tribute of Ascendance United, and then there's also the non-united ones. The united ones will work for all the players in your party, whereas the non-united ones are just going to be just for you. My friend was able to get, I think he got 3 of these by doing Tree of Whispers, and that's the only way that he got them, by just turning in Grim Favors and then going into the Tree of Whispers. And I would assume he's opening the legendary caches, but I don't know for sure. I personally have not ever seen this item in game, so if you guys know, just leave it down in the comments, and and I would just recommend that you guys actually read the comments so you know, and I'll leave it down in the description as well what are some other ways you can get these. But the only way that I know of right now is Tree of Whispers. You go into the Undercity, and you could also, one of the things you can do in the Undercity is you can pick what type of item you get out of the run. Currently, deterministically picking what you want from the Undercity doesn't really seem to work very often, because in this run here, my friend picked that we wanted armor, and it gave all of us a Melted Heart of Selig. It gave every single one of my friends in this run, we all got a Melted Heart of Selig, all with lucky hit chance. So either the game is bugged, or the game is bugged. Those are the 2 options that we got here. But if you happen to get those, and if the determinism actually worked, that would be a decent way to farm Uber Unique. So basically you could just fill out Grim Favors constantly, spam turn those in. You get gold and some other materials from doing that anyway, so that isn't that bad of a thing to do. Turn those in, and then you could go run the Undercity run, try to bring some friends if you get a united one, and then you could use a little thingy at the vendor to try to make it be, for example, if you wanted Tyrael's Might, you could pick, okay, I want it to be armor, or if you wanted like Starless Skies or something, you could pick jewelry or weapon. If you wanted Grandfather, you could pick weapon. As far as I know, those are the only ways to get Uber Uniques currently. If anything does change, I will leave it down in the comments, or the description rather. Quickly, let's just do a little gamble sesh, because I happen to have 2 of these that I don't really care about. So I'll just show you guys a little gamba. So we'll dismantle all items, forge. What am I looking for? I could get one of these quad GA for my speed farm setup. I could get a better Tyrael's Might, which will probably never happen. Do I want anything else? I want a Grandfather for my Necro, but I don't think I can loot that on this character. I guess we'll see what we get. It gives you a little cash, costs 50 mil. I got a chest armor, so I got a Tyrael's. I got a movement speed Tyrael's. Okay, so I can add that to my speed run setup. That's pretty much it for the video. Now I'll talk about which are some of the good Uber Uniques. So I'll just go over to the Maxwell Planner here, and we'll just go over every slot and talk about some of the Uber Uniques that are good. And Dariel's Visage, they nerfed the ever-living crap out of this. I don't know that you can really take advantage of this anymore. I don't know enough about how they nerfed it. All I know is that I put it on and I stopped being good. So Pretty sure you could safely dismantle this. I kept one with GA attack speed on it, and if you get one that has GA attack speed, I'd probably keep it, but I wouldn't feel bad about dismantling it if you needed the Resplendent Spark. Harlequin Crest is pretty good for most classes. If you need cooldown reduction, particularly for Sorcerer, it's very good. Maximum Resource is also good for certain build synergies. The +4 ranks of skills is roughly 27% damage for most skills, and 20% damage reduction is also quite good. Armor and HP at pretty decent values too, so Harlequin Crest I would typically keep. Air of Perdition is a new one and is very, very good. Not only does it have crit chance if you're playing a build that needs crit, movement speed is cool, ranks of core skills is quite nice, and it just has a 60% damage multiplier on it. For Spiritborn, this is strictly worse than Harmony of Epawaka, but it is it is a good option for like Rogue and probably Sorc builds that don't need cooldown reduction. Yeah. Tyrael's Might and Shroud of False Death. Tyrael's Might, these are basically the polar opposite item. Tyrael's Might is disgusting for survivability, as you can see on my character. My Tyrael's Might by itself is resistance capping me. You get maximum resistance to all elements, so I'm at 85% resist. I think I need to re-roll this because I want some of the affix to roll on damage reduction. But regardless, just absolute defensive powerhouse item. And then Shroud of False Death is the opposite, where it is basically a offensive item because it gives you +1 to all passives. I mathed it out. I'm probably wrong because I don't remember all of my math, but when I did the math for Quill Volley, I think it was about you get 40% damage from the +1 to all passives as a result of just getting like 1 point here, 1 point there, 1 point there, you know, just getting all these little percent damage points. And that also does give you some defensive value because there are things like damage reduction per stack of resolve, damage reduction against vulnerable enemies, blah, blah, blah. So it actually does help you defensively. Resource gen is quite nice for certain builds. Maximum HP is pretty good too. I would say this item is not like super, super insane unless you have a passive that just randomly gives you a crazy amount of damage. But I'd say, if I were to guess, I'd say for most builds it's about a 40 to 50% damage increase. But you lose armor on that piece, which is an opportunity cost. You lose dexterity, but you gain all stats, and all stats is a little bit better, and it's a higher roll of whatever your main stat is. And you lose like a utility aspect that you could put there. If you haven't dealt damage in the last 2 seconds, gain stealth and 40% movement speed. This is basically useless, I would say, for most intents and purposes, and the damage on next attack is not a high enough value to care about, in my opinion, for most builds. Weapons, Shattered Vow and Nesakem the Herald. Pretty sure both of these you almost never use. I could be wrong. Yeah, I mean, I just don't see a reason. Like, Berserking is not really all that strong to get on another character, to lose the two-handed aspect, and then also to lose, I mean, just losing the two-handed aspect simply just is not worth this effect here. It's cool, I guess, to get Berserking and attack speed, but it just isn't worth it. And the Nesakem is basically every 5 seconds you mark a random enemy. Marked enemies are vulnerable, and your attacks against them are guaranteed to crit and overpower. This is probably decent against bosses, but if you hit them 10 times, it instantly removes it. And, I mean, the stats on here are really good, to be honest with you. It's, like, not a bad item, but it's not an item that you would use, because for mobbing, like, you'd only use it if you wanted to not stack crit at all, not stack overpower, and not have to build into vulnerable if you actually got all of these for free, but you kind of don't. Because it only works against a marked enemy. If it just made everything marked all the time, then that would be actually very good, I think. Other weapons are Doombringer. This item is very good defensively, ton of damage reduction, HP, and the damage effect is okay, but it mainly is just like a defensive item. And then Grandfather is very, very good. Grandfather is currently bugged with the greater affix, just like it just does not give nearly as much HP as it should, I'm pretty sure. As you can see, a normal weapon, non-GA, gives 900 HP, and if it's GA, it's 1300 HP. And Grandfather used to be the item that gave you like a crap ton of HP, but if you put on Grandfather, non-GA 600 HP, GA 900, that's worse than a normal item almost. It's like equivalent to an item that's non-GA. I don't know what's going on there, but all stats, flat damage, the additive values are pretty good, and 100% crit damage is very, very powerful. So generally, Grandfather is pretty good, probably only for Necro and Barbarian. Actually, that's the only classes that can really use it, so Necro and Barbarian. Starless Skies, this I'm not sure has much value outside of Rogue and Sorc. I could be completely wrong, though. It's very possible that it's good for a Druid build, or even good for a particular Barbarian build. Very good for Dust Devil Barbarian, if I remember correctly. The resistance is also quite nice on it. It's like a very good item, just if you're playing Spiritborn, you just simply don't need it because you have to use the other unique ring, but pretty good item. Lastly, hopefully I'm not missing anything, but the Melted Heart of Selig, this thing sucks. You can solve your defenses other ways than using this item, so I would just trash that all the time. That's pretty much it for Nick's little talk about Uber Uniques. Hopefully you found the video helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Also, I'm close to getting this build to hit for 1 trillion, so make sure to subscribe if you want to see me hit for 1 trillion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.